Welcome to Connection Artist, the podcast for building better relationships by design. Love and human connection are fundamental needs for all of us, but how do we cultivate lasting, emotionally healthy, fulfilling relationships with ourselves and others? I'm Anna Luca, and I invite you to join me in meeting everyday people with diverse backgrounds and ages who all have one thing in common: a genuine passion for fostering meaningful connections. You'll hear their heartwarming stories and practical advice for building lasting marriages, lifelong friendships, and self-love. In this season 1, we sit down with 10 couples, learn how they met, and hear the secrets behind how they've built lasting marriages. Their insights will inspire and enlighten you. I also interview guests who found and maintained warm, lasting friendships for decades, and they're sharing how they did it. And lastly, we can't forget the importance of growing a loving relationship with ourselves, so we discuss building self-love and confidence. I've brought together a fantastic lineup of guests for you to meet who will share their unique stories and invaluable communication and relationship advice. Together, we're learning the secrets to building more meaningful, fulfilling relationships, one conversation at a time. I'm Anna Luca, and I invite you to join me in becoming a connection artist. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. Today, we have 3 lovely ladies. We have Stephanie, Amy, and Mariah. I met them at a coffee shop recently. I overheard them talking about their relationships. One of them happens to be a newlywed, one of them is dating, and one of them is single. And I want to bring them on the podcast because so many people are at various stages in their dating experience right now, and with the goal of either getting married or building a meaningful, lasting relationship. I thought these ladies could offer some really good perspectives wherever you're at in your dating life right now. So I want to give them each an opportunity to introduce themselves. I'm excited for this one. Go ahead, Stephanie.
Hello, I am Stephanie, and I am the one that is currently dating someone right now. Do you want to know anything else?
No, that's okay. We can just make the loop.
Okay.
Love it. I'm Mariah. I've been married for 4 to 5 months.
I'm Amy, and I'm currently single.
All right. Thank you for the background context, because I heard you guys were so great at giving each other advice and just very logical and rational. And I just thought, I don't know if everyone has the fortune of having a good girlfriend circle around them, people that they can trust to go to for relationship advice, sound relationship advice. So I love the dynamic that you 3 had. Do you want to share how you found each other and brought each other into your lives?
How did we find each other?
Yeah.
Do you want us to explain it? Oh, I was just going to say, we were all in the same small group a couple years ago.
At church.
At church,
Yeah.
Yep. And I met Steph a little before that, and then Amy said, we kind of knew each other, but, weren't friends.
Yeah.
And then I think the small group kind of, got us close, brought us closer.
Yeah. Facilitated the friendship.
And you guys were leading, and I knew you both prior, and I was really excited to get to know you better. So then we just continued being friends after the group and going on walks every Friday morning and just catching up about life and keeping up.
And I forgot to ask you guys, how old are you guys? In your 20s or?
Oh.
What was that?
I'm I feel old.
No. 20s or 30s? Or?
I'm 26.
Okay.
I forget. I'm 32.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
27.
Okay, great. So late 20s, early 30s. Perfect.
Yeah.
And then you met at small group, a small community discussion group at church, for anyone who's not familiar with those community groups. So maybe we'll start off with you, Mariah. You're a newlywed. How did you know? So she mentioned that she's been married about 4.5 months or so. How did you know that your partner was the one for you, the one that you wanted to commit to?
Yeah. That's a good question. Yeah, yep, I can say where we met too. So yeah, we got married in August, and we met kind of at church. We were both volunteering Friday nights at what we call ICCM Life Center. It's just a place, it's a church, but we go out, hand out hot dogs, pray for people, and so he was going there at the time, and I think I think right away, like, seeing him there was just like, okay, cool. Like, he's running the same rate. He's doing the same things that I am. Like,
Were you interested at first?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was like, he's, like, cute, and he's, like, serving. He's, like, always around. Like, he would always greet at church, and, like, he's just, like, always here. And so I thought he was cute. And then, but yeah, long story short, he asked me out on a date, and we went on our date, and our first date was 5 hours long. So it was just like, it was one of those dates where, I mean, I don't know, like, you go to dinner, and then it's like the date could go a little further or it could end. And it was just like, he's like, do you want to get ice cream? And I was like, yes. And so we got ice cream and closed down the ice cream shop and just, like, kept talking. But I think there were just a lot of things that contributed to that decision. I would say, like, one, I could be very, like, I was, like, felt very safe with him, and I was like, I know that I can share really hard things with you, and just felt like a really safe place. And then the other would be, yeah, like, his faith. I could tell it was really important to him. And yeah, when we had conflict, because it's inevitable, you're gonna have conflict, he was just really receptive and wanting to just, like, hear and, like, understand me and, like, work through things. So that was huge.
Good. So
yeah.
It sounds like you guys shared similar morals and ethics, whatever that structure looks like for different people. Just try to ensure that the person who you choose kind of sees things the same way that you do when it comes to, like, whether it's the same religion or whatever. And good conflict resolution skills, I heard.
Yeah.
This is always a theme with so many couples.
Big.
And I love that you brought that out, because, again, there are so many people out there that kind of just think relationships should be easy, and conflict-free relationships are a good sign, but naturally so many relationships eventually in their course at some point you'll have a conflict about something. So getting that out of the way early and seeing how you both handle conflicts, it seems like that gave you reassurance that this could be a person that you can work out challenges with. And then you mentioned the attraction, the physical attraction.
Yeah.
And then there was one more thing that you mentioned, other than the faith, the shared
Vulnerability.
faith. Oh, yes. He made you feel
trust.
emotionally safe. And when you needed vulnerability and comfort, these are all really good signs.
Yeah.
Good. And how long did you know each other before you got engaged or married?
So we dated, that is a good question. We dated for 11 months and got engaged, and we were engaged for 6 months and got married.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
So,
When you know, you know.
Yeah, I love how you phrased the question too, like, how do you know you wanted to spend your life with him versus, like, the one? Because I think so much people think, I gotta find my person. It's like, do we think there's, like, the one person for you?
That's
I
actually,
don't think that.
That's actually a really
I don't
good
agree
question,
either.
Yeah.
because I was actually thinking about this earlier, like, you know, the concept of the one that got away, or the one you meet in life, whatever. We see that a lot on social media. Like, I found the one, or he's the one, or at the end of reality dating shows or reality TV dating shows, it's like, oh, I found the one. That's so, there's so much promotion of the one. What do you guys feel like, do you agree with that concept? Do you disagree with it, and why? And maybe even, like, how does religion play into that decision, or support that view that you have around the one?
Yeah. I think that puts a lot of pressure on people to figure that out right away. And then I think that's why there are, like, breakups that are happening, because people lose the feelings of, like, happiness in a relationship. So then they think, oh, this can't be the one if I'm losing those feelings. And I mean, I personally think that there's so many people that we're compatible with, and specifically, like, because we love the Lord, like, I don't know, I think we can find a relationship with anyone that loves the Lord, but is also, you know, like, we're attracted to, and someone that we have good conversations with. And I think it puts a lot of pressure on someone to be perfect when relationships will never be perfect.
That's a really good idea. I can see that where in a relationship, once conflict does arise, it's like, oh, you must not be the one for me.
Yeah.
Because you're not perfect. So, and of course, no one's perfect. So, don't throw in the towel just because you're like, oh, the one's probably still out there. Then the grass is always greener kind of mentality. Yeah. What about you, Amy?
Yeah, I was thinking something that you, Steph, have I feel like taught me is that love is a choice too. Like you're choosing the one person that you're going to be married to for the rest of your life. So you're choosing that one person.
Yeah.
But you could choose any person, but you're choosing to commit to them. So it's ideally would be one person, but it's not like there's only one person out there for you, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But you can choose.
I heard someone say, if there is one person for each of us, if someone, chooses the wrong person, then we're all messed up. It's all messed up. How do it up? Yeah.
That's a really good point.
Yeah. So,
and then I also wonder about, what if the one, passes away or something? Then there's no one else out there? Can you imagine, say that you become a widow or a widower in your 20s, and you're like, oh, I had found the one, I was married to my soulmate, and then maybe there's, God forbid, a car accident or something. Does that mean that you just give up then the next decades of your life not looking for love because the one passed away? So these are all really valid things to contemplate when you're seeking someone. So on the topic of seeking a person that you're a fit for, so Amy and Steph, is it Steph or Stephanie?
Whatever you want to call it. Steffi.
How are you both going about building clarity around what you want in a partner?
I think it's important to, like we said, for us, all of us, we're looking for someone who loves the Lord as well. So I think having a few non-negotiables are probably really important in helping determine who you're gonna be open to,
So values-based.
Values-based, yeah. And I think there's just this tension of what we were just talking about with the one and how there's gonna be conflict. Life and relationships aren't just a walk in the park, but at the same time, I think almost you want to make sure that for the most part it's probably less problems than not, I don't know, it's hard to describe, but when I feel like the Lord is orchestrating something, it's gonna also you will kind of know as well,
unknowing peace about it.
That's kind of what I'm going for.
So knowing what you're looking for
beforehand.
Beforehand
helps,
so you can
And I also think, and we kind of were talking about this before the podcast began, but looking for character things rather than the visual aspect or what we're attracted to, because I don't know, I feel like I've dated a lot of different types of people, as in the way that they look. So kind of valuing what you're looking for first, because they might not have everything on the list, but if they have the most important things, being able to communicate well, when you're in a fight, or do they love people? I really love people. Or how are they spending their weekends? Compatibility that way, because you are choosing a person for forever. But yeah.
So it sounds like their lifestyle is something that when you guys are kind of in your mind mentally thinking, who am I looking for out here? Lifestyle is something that you're thinking about. Compatible lifestyle, compatible values, compatible people skills, it sounds like. You said, you personally, Steph, you don't have too many physical requirements. Are there other types of... I think that was probably a personal preference, because I think some people are probably I really am attracted to people who look a certain way, or people who look like me. I just find them naturally biologically
that
more.
is a thing.
Yeah,
Where
no.
people are attracted to people that look like
Or they start looking like each other.
I know. Well, I don't think that's bad because if you think about it, like say that they grew up in a culture where they just saw a lot of people that look like themselves, and they naturally feel comfortable around people who look like themselves.
Yeah,
so of course they're gonna like and feel comfortable around others that they meet or are considering dating if they look like themselves. So I think that could be normal. I don't think it's necessarily a negative thing.
Well, it's like how much weight are you putting on it? Like like attraction is great.
It's important.
Like,
I need to be attractive. I'm saying that.
Yeah.
I need attraction.
But it's like how much weight are you putting on that? Because like looks fade. You're gonna be
we're not gonna look so great. when
yeah,
we're 90 years
like
old.
exactly. It's what really like how much weight are you putting on the physical attraction? Like, is important.
This is a really good point. And you hear too that, men are visual creatures. Of course, like that's one of the main things that they value. And you bring up a good point for any males listening out there too. It's like, if that's the main reason you're with the woman you're with is because she has a certain physique that really attracts you now, how are you going to feel about her in 10 years or 20 years from now?
Right.
Will you get a divorce with her at that point because she's no longer physically attractive? Like, be mindful of these things ahead of time. And same thing for women too. I'm sure like some women end up in relationships like, oh, he's just so hot, and maybe he doesn't treat me the best, but he's just so hot, and we just have this passion. Again, that can fade with time. You never know, what things can happen in the future. And so that's a really good point so you're kind of suggesting, Mariah, is almost like weight your different qualities that you're looking for. So is the weight mostly on values? Like, what's the top priority? What's the second in priority maybe? Like, is it lifestyle similarities? Maybe what's the third? Is it people skill similar? Whatever it is that kind of in your minds what I'm just trying to, for those who are struggling, like, I just don't know what I want. I'm just trying to give them ideas for how to get clarity on figuring out what they want. I know on dating apps too, there are some people who list on there, lots of people who list on there, don't know what I'm seeking. It's like, it's almost like, I know, and it's almost the equivalent of, and even on a big question like, do you want kids or not? Sometimes that's an option on dating apps. They're like, I don't know. Like, that is a big question to not be clear about, because you might be setting up your partner for a non-successful experience in dating you if you are not clear. I almost want to equate it to getting in the car with someone and they're like, let's take a road trip. You're like, yeah, I like the sound of a road trip. Let's go on a road trip. And then you're thinking, oh, we're going to end up in Colorado, right? And he doesn't know where he's going. He doesn't have like clarity in dating. He doesn't know what he wants. And you guys just end up going all around the U.S. and end up in Arkansas. You're like, hold on. I was expecting to go to Colorado. He's like, well, I didn't know what I wanted, and I didn't have a map of where I wanted to go. We just got in the car together and started going with the flow. A lot of men are like, I just like women who go with the flow and all this stuff. And maybe some women have that mentality too, where they don't really have any goals. And then sometimes that sets them up for failure or just dissatisfaction in their dating experiences. So I'm really happy that we are kind of starting to chip away at some things to consider in gaining clarity before putting yourself out on the dating scene. Go ahead, Steph.
While you were talking, I was just thinking, okay, like, what if someone is confused and they don't know? Well, I feel like our culture right now is selfishly dating. And so we're putting our own needs in front of the other person's needs. So therefore, we're like, we're lonely. So I'm just going to get out here and date someone so that I feel better about myself, but not necessarily like knowing if I even want to settle down, or who I want to date. And so I think like figuring out, okay, what am I most passionate about? You don't necessarily have to go out and go on a ton of dates to figure it out, but just like be in community, talk to someone of the opposite sex and see like who am I compatible with in that way, figure that out and then get out there, because dating isn't a selfish thing. It's like you're loving the other person and they're loving you in like different ways maybe that you're not used to and you're learning. So we have to get like the selfish mindset out of our head, but that's our culture currently.
That's a really good point, that some people are just lonely and that's why they're out there.
Yeah.
They're just kind of grasping at connection wherever they can get it.
Right.
And again, maybe that's why some people end up in the wrong relationships, because they just get attached to someone who is maybe not the right person for them to be attached to, but they were just lonely. And the other option was, well, I just don't want to be alone. I'd be sad if I was alone, so I'd rather be dating than, some people fear being alone. So that's a really good point, is recognizing that in yourself. If you're just dating haphazardly right now because you're just afraid of being lonely, or if you could be dating smarter.
Right.
Do you have any other
I think
ideas?
another thought of when you're thinking, well, I will date because I don't want to be alone. There's actually so much hope in like the singleness season, like figuring out exactly what we're talking about, figuring out what your passions are, figuring out like who you are as a person, because that's gonna, number one, make you more attractive, because when you're confident in who you are, people like that, and that's everybody likes that in someone. So I think there is so much hope in like the time that you are single, to really just develop those qualities and develop who you are, and do things that you might not be able to do when you're married, and kind of just like take advantage of the time that you have. So that's kind of what I wanted to show too, of like, although there can be hard seasons and it can feel lonely at times, there also is a lot of opportunity to really value that season.
That's a super good point, Amy. Like, maximize the time when you are single. Like, invest in yourself. Explore your passions. Explore yourself. Get clear on what you want, because that only makes you a more attractive partner when you do find the right person. Thank you for sharing that. Are there any influences or pressures that you can think of when you are kind of creating this kind of mental, I don't want to call it a list, but just kind of some mental characteristics that you're looking for? Are there any influences that you think that people might have to consider or deal with in their lives as they're deciding their personal compatibility wish list?
I think so. I don't know if this is the answer to the question. I hope it kind of does, but I was listening to a podcast about like dating, and it's John Kamukluda. He's a pastor in Waco, Texas, but he talks about like, what are you listening to? Like, what are you taking in? And he talks about like, he's like, I think he mentioned like Taylor Swift, and like, not to bash on Taylor Swift, but like growing up, I listened to Taylor Swift so much, and I was feeding that like heartbreak. I was like feeding that to myself. And so I think it was like, once I started seeking out other influences outside of that music, that was actually like really just not good for me. Looking back, I'm able to just like hear from other perspectives, and I think that played a big part in what influenced me. Is like what influences me is like what I'm choosing to listen to, and if that
and the voices, the people who are speaking into your life, the everything, the people you're listening to or people you look up to, what you're watching, what music you're listening to, all of that.
That's a really good point. So be selective in making sure that you're listening to or taking in content that aligns you with the kind of energy that you want to be going on in the dating world with, maybe? Is that what I'm hearing? Because you're right, like, music does influence even our mood. Like, if you're constantly listening to sad music, you might walk around sad that day, you know? So that's a really good point. I can see that, too, on social media. There are so many influencers, like dating coaches and stuff, who kind of put out certain messages that are part of their personal belief system, but they're not necessarily the most emotionally healthy. Dating coaches or advice givers, some of the advice that they give is kind of toxic in a way, or manipulative. So I think that's a really valid point, is kind of taking an inventory of what kind of content are you listening to on a daily basis or weekly basis, and does that person even have the kind of relationships that you would admire? Because if you take advice from the wrong person, you're probably going to end up where they are. So just be really careful. Did you want to add anything, Stephanie?
No,
No.
I'm agreeing.
You're just agreeing?
Right.
I was going to add, the question was about like pressures too, and I think we can put a lot of pressure on ourselves to, like, while we're dating, to try to figure it out as soon as possible, like almost to like protect your heart because you don't want to get it broken if it's the wrong person, so just like figure out as fast as possible. And I think there's definitely wisdom in trying to figure that out sooner rather than later, so we're not going all around town like your analogy of the road trip. But yeah, I think there's a pressure that we put on ourselves, and I think some of that can be just lifted in like enjoying the dating season and just having fun and getting to know each other like as friends. Because if you're going to spend the rest of your life with someone, like, you want to be best friends with them, and you want to be able to just know them as a friend as well as your husband, and more than that. So
When you were talking, I just was also thinking, like, how to date honorably.
Yes.
Because yes, you go into dating, you have no idea if this is going to end up with a breakup, and that's so terrifying. And I think there's wisdom in like guarding your heart, and like, but you also want to have fun, and so you want to let loose. And so I think if we're dating honorably, then that means like being respectful to one another. Maybe not talking about like marriage if you're actually not ready, or I don't know. So then if you do break up, then you're both not like mutually so connected. That's going to be so hurtful. Obviously it is going to be painful when you break up. It's just life. But I think there's a way to do it so that it's not like you're losing your other half.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I love that. I don't know, is that a term, dating honorably? Like that?
I may have heard it somewhere.
I
have no idea.
That sounds great. Like, I've never heard that before, but it makes sense. Like, dating authentically to yourself, and also maybe not, in your mind, taking the relationship further than it actually is in the present.
Yes.
Because I think that's maybe what you were also getting at as well, as like when you get too invested in someone, and the heartbreak is even deeper for you, but maybe you guys weren't even there yet. It was you guys were just dating for a few weeks or a few months or something. Like, kind of pace yourself a bit, and like honor yourself and respect yourself in that process, to not put all your eggs in one basket so early. To like take your time with dating. You can.
And also like giving each other grace, because we're both figuring it out at the same time.
Good stuff. What about when you are thinking of compatibility factors? How do you balance having standards versus seeking perfection in a partner? Because, I mean, there are some people who are like, oh, this is a huge checklist. Here's like 50 things that I want my partner to have, down to what the tone of his voice is, let's just say. Like, you can get real detailed with some of these lists, can get real detailed, but then at what point are you like, well, I'm just seeking perfection at that point? Like, is this like a Build-A-Bear? Like, like where do you kind of stop yourself at? Like, where do you give room for flexibility, and where do you kind of draw the line of, no, this really is a standard that I have in dating? How do you differentiate between perfectionism and standards? It's a hard question. Go ahead.
I don't know if I have anything to say. I feel like I'm just currently, I relate to this question because I'm currently going through something like this and figuring out, are my standards too high? Am I fixating too much on this, and this? But I think kind of, I'll just like reiterate what we had already said. Making a list of priorities that we want, or like characteristics that we want, and if the list is longer than 10, I think that's a little outrageous. But
I almost, like, this is a little bit cheesy, but like the golden rule, treat others how you want to be treated. Like, if you're holding someone to this really high standard, like, that you don't think you are hitting, or that you would not want to be evaluated on,
that's good.
I think that's really
everyone's getting excited about this.
Oh, hold up, I don't know.
No, that's good.
No,
that
finish.
is so good.
That's all I have. Well, I was pointing at you because my sister-in-law just told me this.
Oh, really?
She goes, Steph, you're not perfect. Like, why are you trying to, like, I don't know, just dissect everything that he's doing when maybe he's looking at you and he's like, well, she doesn't have this one thing, but he's still choosing you. So
yeah. And I think there's I think it's really important to talk to people who are like in different seasons of life than you are, like married friends or people who've had like amazing marriages and have worked through a lot of hard things, and bring those up and get their perspective, because there are a lot of things that we can grow and work on in life, and then there are certain things that are kind of just, I don't know, maybe not, maybe everything can be worked on. I'm not really sure now that I'm saying it, but there are certain things that it's like, you know, that person is this way, and like if they're not willing to work on it, I think that's where there also is like, could draw the line of if they're stuck in their ways and they don't see
growth mindset.
Yes.
Yeah. So having a growth mindset, we're kind of reiterating that having a growth mindset is another thing to, if it's not on your list, consider it on your list, because eventually, as the years go by, both of you will grow, possibly in different directions, but can you come to the same table and kind of grow along the same path together? Or does that person just want to stay the way they are and they're fixed in who they're, just very set in their ways? They're like, nope, no room for improvement here, I'm perfect. Like, is that someone that you can grow with if you have a growth mindset? So consider that too as you're evaluating people's. If you are a person who values improvement and growth and movement forward in your life, are you with someone who also has that same mentality, or are they kind of set in their ways and complacent in the space that they are? But I want to get back to your point too about when you're evaluating, you know, your however detailed your compatibility list might be, also take a look at that and answer for yourself, am I these things? I think that's really important, is to seek out people who are realistic, like, and because those are the people I think also who will be most attracted to you as well, because they'll see parts of themselves reflected in you, like, oh, I want him to have this kind of a, I don't know, financial situation. Well, are you kind of close to that financial situation too? Because maybe that might create an off balance if one person is in a vastly different financial state than the other person. Even weight-wise, actually. Like, I know some men who don't exercise weekly, don't take care of their bodies, they eat pretty terribly, and they're like, well, I want a model. I want her to be super thin. I want her to be 20 years younger than me. I want her to, just look like a model and really take care of herself. But when you look at them, you're like, you don't do those things. So how would a woman like that, how would she naturally think to choose you? So whether you're a man or a woman, evaluate what you're looking for, the criteria, and again, ask yourself, am I doing these things right now in my life? It's a really good point. Thank you. I just wanted to emphasize that, because I don't think that that's done as much when people are considering compatibility. Like considering being honest with themselves and what they bring to the table. Maybe this goes in line with dating honorably, like being honest with yourself.
Yeah.
What kind of things do you believe are and are not in your control when it comes to dating? Like, do you feel dating is an experience that's empowering or kind of disempowering for you because of what is in your control and what is not? How do you feel in dating?
It can be scary because, you can go into the dating scene really confident and maybe really enjoy the date that you're on, but then they also have a choice and they could not choose you. So it is, it's terrifying and it's scary that one person can be interested and then the other person could not. But I don't know, I also think dating can be fun because if you go into it with a mindset of, I'm going to go and I'm going to see if you're even compatible for me, rather than going in and trying to put on so that they like you. I think that was really helpful, going on dates and knowing, hey, I'm not on this to make you like me. I'm on this date to see if I like you. And so I guess that's empowering when I was dating.
That's really good. Is don't try to be too much of a people pleaser.
Right.
Be your authentic self. Because just like in interviews, when we think of jobs, they always say, it's equally you interviewing the company.
Yeah.
It's not just don't allow it to just be the company determining, are you good enough for them? Like, just like in dating too, I think that kind of relates. And like, realize you're also in the position of choice. So it goes both ways.
Yeah. I would say there's a lot of ways these days to date. It could be Hinge, like any dating app. It could be mutual friends connecting you. Could be just through your community, naturally. And so personally, I've found dating apps to be disempowering. I don't love them. I don't feel like honestly great about myself when I'm on them. So, but there's also, I have several friends who are now engaged to be married, like to their fiancés, and they met them on dating apps. And so I think that they definitely work, and it's worth giving a try if like that's what you would like to do. But I also don't think you need to force yourself to do it if it's actually like hurting your self-esteem or just like really frustrating and making you feel down. And so I think that there are guys out there in real life and like ways to meet them. And for me, I would love it to be a real life, like a natural way, but also who knows if it will be like, I don't know. So I just think there's a lot of options, but personally I think dating apps are disempowering for me.
I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I think that sentiment is shared by a lot of people. Probably not the people who work at dating apps, but the rest of, I've heard that a lot. I don't know exactly what the experience is as much with men. I know that there are also there are a lot of people who are frustrated on both sides, men and women, but I've heard that a lot from women too, is that they just don't feel great. The environment of these dating apps, they don't feel great on. And there are a multitude of dating apps, and not one is like, oh, this is the one that makes me feel great. Like a lot of, it's almost like luck of the draw. Like, yes, there are people who do meet their life partners off these apps. But I wonder, compared to the market that they hold, like say that a dating app has, let's say, 5 million active users, what percentage of those people are actually getting married? Who knows? Right. Like, I don't know if dating apps necessarily even know, but
and who's taking them seriously?
Exactly.
Like being on there.
And how long are these relationships even lasting? You know, even if they do get off the app. So it's really interesting. Like, even when they do work, how successful are they in finding you the right person? And also being honest with yourself when it comes to dating honorably. Like, check in. Do I feel good using this platform? If not, maybe try something else, because dating is hard enough as it is. We don't need to be bringing ourselves down by exposing ourselves to the wrong people who might not be treating us respectfully and things like that. So really glad that you brought up the dating app space. Go ahead. Steph, go ahead.
I also think like being on the dating app, because you're seeing all of these choices, then it's creating a mindset that there's so many other options out there. So then it's harder to commit. And I think it's damaging to a lot of our brains.
I mean, he would say you're training for divorce.
Yeah. I mean, that's social media in general.
I don't know. But maybe you didn't say that. Don't quote me on that.
No, I heard that podcast.
I feel like I heard him say something.
Do you think it maybe is delaying people from making a choice? Like, just being like, okay, this is a person, they're good. Like, I'll just date them.
Totally.
Because, they'll go on a date with this one person, but then you're talking to, like, 10 people at one time in your messages. And so maybe, like, they're going on a date with this person a few dates, and then they're still talking to this person here. And then let's say, like, they like this person, but then they match with another person that maybe is a little bit better looking. And,
So it's kind of creating almost like a culture of like indecision.
Right.
Like the grass could always be better. Could always be a little greener. Like who might I match with tomorrow? It kind of, for some people I'm sure can get addictive. It's almost like a slot machine. Like, okay, I almost had 3 cherries in a row. Let's go one more. Maybe I can get
Right.
So true.
That's
I definitely think that's a real thing of culture of indecision right now. I just think I've talked to so many of my friends who have had that experience, and I don't know, I'm sure there are many factors of what's causing that, but I'm sure social media and like dating apps is a impact or like a input to that.
How do you feel dating apps have affected people's willingness to approach others in person?
That's gonna.
Yeah, no one does it. No one does it anymore, I would say. It's easier to sit on your couch and like scroll through and I'm going to be talking to this person, this person, this person. And yeah, I feel like even with communication skills, people don't know what to say. I feel like we see a cute person in a coffee shop. They don't know like how to spark a conversation because, I mean, on the dating apps, it's like, hey, what are your plans this weekend? It's always the same weird questions. Yeah.
Mariah, you're so lucky that you did not have to find someone on a dating app. This could have been your story.
I don't know. I've heard good things about Upward. So I don't know a lot about it, but
Are you working for them?
no. I mean, that is not sponsored. I just have heard good things.
I think that's a Christian dating app. Right?
Oh, okay. Yeah,
is
it
it?
is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like you submit a resume or not
What?
not a resume. Sorry, a letter or like I don't know.
LinkedIn account?
No.
I mean, in any case, there are a variety of dating
LinkedIn.
apps out there, so you might want to browse your app store and figure out if you are curious which one might work for you. But if there was one that worked the majority of the time, I think we would all know about it. So I think your success rate on any of these is probably pretty equal. Did you have anything else to add with the dating app world? And I've heard that a lot, what you said, Steph, about people are just not approaching other people organically as often as maybe they were before some of these swipe apps took off. And maybe part of that is just because people naturally just don't like rejection. So if there's a way to like talk to someone where they don't have to get personally rejected, so like going on a dating app and easily like swiping left or right or just unmatching someone if I just don't like how she responded with the one word answer, bye, like swipe left. Like I think it's easier to reject people when you don't look at them face to face, and easier to kind of retain your ego and pride when you do get rejected if it's on an app from someone you don't know, haven't met personally. You can always think of a few excuses in your head. Well, they just don't know me, so they're really dumb. They just don't know me. They don't know what they lost, whatever. But if you put yourself out there in the real world and like approach someone, say at a coffee shop or something, and you're putting yourself out there, like physically, I like you, do you like me, kind of a thing, without saying those words, that rejection in person, I can imagine, can be harder because you're like, well, other people have seen me approach this person. I feel humiliated now. But wait, there are these apps that I can use where I can just skip that humiliation. So I can understand why some people might be less willing to approach people in public if they think I just have this repository of hot people at my disposal on this app whenever I want them. I can talk to whoever I want. So no, I'm not going to talk to this cute girl at a coffee shop reading by herself.
Right.
So I'm just kind of thinking of one kind of mind frame that some of these people might have as far as holding back and being reserved.
A conversation that we've had, like just in our community, I feel like is how to deal with rejection, and also how to, like when you're talking about dating honorably, like if it's not a match, like how can you like tell that person that information and like but in an honorable way, and be healthy and like not have it be this big blow up and then now you can never see them again. And that, I mean, we should be caring about like everybody's hearts, because rejection is really tough, but there is a way to go about it in like a better way, a healthier way, and like not ghosting people. And I don't know, I think that just like the more people do it, the more it feels normal. And so trying to flip the script on that of like, no, what does it look like to end a relationship in a healthy way and still be able to like maybe see them if you're in the same community or
That's a really good point, is being careful of what's being normalized as okay for rejecting people. You mentioned ghosting. Like that is that can be a traumatic experience for some people. And it's become so normalized nowadays. Like, it's just very easy to let go of people, especially digitally. So that's a really good thing to think about, is to care about what you just said, care about everyone's hearts, not just your own. So being mindful of how you choose to reject people. And also, well, one question for all of you is, what advice do you have for people who are afraid of getting rejected by, in person going up to someone? That is a fear that a lot, again, people are afraid of embarrassment. They're afraid to put themselves out there. That maybe that's why a lot of people are overly reliant on these dating apps, because they don't know how to put themselves out there physically or personally, I should say. What advice do you have to help people manage that fear of rejection?
Well, I don't have like a specific. What I was just thinking of is instead of like asking someone out if you see them at a coffee place, just be involved in community, and so build friendships and relationships that way. So it's not, not just you like seeing a pretty girl or a cute guy, and let's say you're not compatible, and you ask them out and maybe go on a few dates, and that's not good. But get to know people in a community, see if you would be compatible with them, and then ask them out. So if we've all heard this. If you're sitting at home, you're not at a church, you're not like involved in like a sports activity, or I don't know, whatever community, pottery. And I don't know why I thought of pottery. That's pottery. That's my passions.
That's where everyone's meeting each other nowadays, pottery.
You never know.
That would actually be really good for like a dating event thing. Like, everyone gets together, build pots together, and maybe
I'm so bad at pottery.
Maybe find your significant other.
Hobbies.
Yes, hobbies.
It doesn't have to be pottery. We don't have the stats on how many people actually get married after pottery classes, but I'm gonna wager it's pretty high. But sorry, you were talking, Stephanie. Wherever you go, it sounds like focus. Maybe if you are afraid of rejection, maybe just focus on building friendships with people in groups that you're just naturally interested in. Maybe it's a running group. Maybe just join something community-wise and build little friendships, get to know them, let them become familiar with you, and then kind of work up that courage to ask someone in person.
And like, where is your identity? Is your identity in this moment of like, if I get rejected in this moment, like, it'll absolutely crush me. Like, where's your identity? And, like, and then another thing I was thinking was sometimes a no or a rejection, or like when we feel, sometimes it is protection. Like, sometimes a no is like a good thing, and you don't always see it in the moment, but it can be like a good thing.
I think a no is probably better than like hesitation, maybe indecision, right? And so it's kind of like trying to be like, okay, it was a no. I'm gonna just, obviously it's really, sometimes that's really tough, and like you need seasons to really work through that. And I'm not trying to brush it off and just be like, okay, brush it off and move on. But, but what you were saying, I think identity and really understanding like, who am I, and if people don't like me, or if I get rejected by someone I'm interested in, am I going to be then a shell of a person? Like, if so, then that means you're putting all of your hope in what people think of you. Right. And you're going to get let down. And then, like, so I think just, like, finding your identity and really understanding, like, who you are. And for us, it's, like, who are you in Christ? And knowing that nothing can take that away. And so it's really tough, and you need that reminder. You need to always be, like, renewing your mind of who am I, and like I'm not gonna allow like people pleasing to crush me.
I think that's a good point, and what I'm kind of hearing is just be confident in your self-worth. Whatever external response you get, even if it's a rejection or a no, it has no weight on your personal self-worth or your personal value. If you can build that up and get secure in, I am lovable, I know that I have a lot to offer, this person just didn't happen to see it, and that's okay. But don't take rejection as a flaw in yourself. Don't allow someone else's opinion of you to be your opinion of yourself. Like, prioritize your own opinion of yourself a little higher than, other people's opinions of you. And for some people, that faith in themselves does come from God or Christ or whatever. They're like, well, I was put here because clearly I'm valuable to God. Like, that's why he put me here. So I'm secure in knowing that I do matter, I do belong here, I do have worth. And it's okay that if someone in the coffee shop didn't see that and they rejected that, that's fine. At the end of the day, I still know that I was created because I have value and I deserve to be here.
Yes. Yeah, and everybody does have value, and I think walking through rejection and healing from rejection is really hard and real, and like if that's like where you're at, like you're not alone, and like people for years have gone through that, and so like just find community and find people who are going to build you up, and find hobbies, and
good stuff. Any last minute advice that you guys would have for someone, again, trying to figure out their dating goals or what they want in a partner or how they want to approach dating? Any kind of parting words that you have for listeners?
Know what you're looking for. Also, don't like date in like a silo, or like don't date and just like lose all your friendships, and like obviously don't share everything with everyone. There's discernment in who you share with, but like your friends, I've heard from another podcast, like we are biased. Like we're in a relationship, we're biased towards ourselves, we're biased towards our partner. Find your trusted people, share what you're going through, and share openly about the relationship so that other people can speak into it if you're receptive to that. I think that's really helpful because we're very biased.
So have a trusted support group.
Yes.
And also don't lose your friends in the process of growing a new relationship, like a romantic relationship. Balance your social life with your romantic life, your family life, whatever these different compartments are of your life. Balance them together. Don't put everything that you have in just this one person, because that actually can worsen your heartbreak if it doesn't work out. Then it feels like you've just lost everything. So be mindful to honor and grow a variety of relationships that are loving around you, not just the one. Any other words, Stephanie?
I was just thinking to say date honorably again. I think it's helped me knowing that hey, if I'm treating this person right, or if I'm respecting them, then everything's going to be fine. And what did you say, the golden rule?
Yeah, treat others how you would like to be treated. Don't hold on to like a higher standard than you would want to be held to.
Right. Those are my lasting words.
Your words, I love it. What about you, Amy? Any lasting words for?
I would say, I know everybody says this, but just be yourself, because you want to be with someone who you're not putting up a front for. You can't always pretend, like you're gonna be nervous maybe, or you're gonna like want to be more energetic than normal, or whatever heading into the first few dates. But at the end of the day, just be yourself, because if you want to spend the rest of your life with them, they're gonna see you at your highest highs and lowest lows, and so you want to let them know what they're getting into too, in a good, and you want to see them as well, and like know that like you are valuable and you are like desirable. And if that is a desire of your heart to be married, I think that like you can rest assured that like there's someone for you. So
good. So be authentic, be genuine, be yourself. Good. Well, ladies, this has been such a great conversation. I loved all your different viewpoints coming from so many different angles and life experiences. I'm sure listeners appreciate the variety of thoughts that we shared today. So thank you all for being here and sharing your love and your thoughts with us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
It was fun.
As we wrap up another episode of Connection Artist, I want to express my gratitude to you for listening and exploring how we can all grow and better connect with one another. I created this podcast to support your relationship success and happiness. If you found value in this episode, here's how you can support me and help spread the word about this podcast. First, subscribe to this podcast and share it with 10 friends. If you share this education with 10 people and they share it with 10 people and so on, we can grow this movement of creating a more loving and caring world. If you'd like to show your support on a personal level, visit www.analuca.com. That's ANALUCA. Explore my heart-centric products and education, from poetry books to online courses, art prints to apparel. Every purchase directly enables me to continue producing episodes and sharing these valuable stories and insights with you, because this podcast is not free to create. Please consider buying something I've made with my heart and soul to connect with you. Discover handmade heart-shaped art prints and hoodies featuring my exclusive Crypto Love Drops collection at www.artbyanaluca.com. Read about the inspiration behind these beautiful heart artworks at cryptolovedrops.com. These make really great, unique gifts for your friends, family, and spouse, and serve as a lasting symbolic reminder of your love for them. Or if you enjoy journaling or you'd like to start, get my 15-minute daily guided journal for confident mindset titled Yes, I Can. If you want more stories, buy my poetry book, The People We Meet, available on Amazon or directly on my website, artbyanaluca.com. Just click on the Books tab. Listen to my music album called Reprise on Spotify. Fun fact, the opening music track that you heard on this podcast is actually composed by me and is featured in my music album. If you want to learn how to strengthen your self-worth, get my digital ebook called Well Valued, which features a 30-day blueprint for building self-worth. Or if you're single and want to learn how to assess and find your most compatible dating partner using AI, get my digital course called Well Matched. These products are all designed to strengthen your self-worth and relationships and are all linked in my website, www.analuca.com. Also, don't forget to check out my hand-illustrated apparel line at www.laughs2self.com. I hand-designed really funny, cute illustrations that made me laugh, but also serve the purpose of spreading humor, love, and connection with others. That apparel line of hoodies, t-shirts, and sweaters are exclusively available only on my website, so if you want to wear something unique, check out laughs2self.com. Connect with me on social media for podcast and life updates. You can follow me on Instagram or TikTok at AnaLucaOfficial. And lastly, if you're based in the United States and would like to be interviewed on the podcast, send me a message at myconnectionartist@gmail.com to potentially join me as a guest on this show in the future. Remember to subscribe to this podcast and leave a 5-star review. It helps a lot in reaching more listeners like you who can benefit from this information. Thank you for being a part of this Connection Artist community. I'm wishing you so much love and happiness in your relationships. Stay tuned for the next episode.